Good evening, everyone. We can have everyone take their seats. Everybody's time is precious here. We want to start reasonably on time. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the USIBWC San Diego Citizens Forum Board meeting. My name is Frank Fisher, and I am the agency's Public Affairs Chief. I'm joined here from our Public Affairs office with Frankie Pignon, there in the back. He manages the Citizens Forum program for our agency, and he also is doing the IT and social media. First, let me say on behalf of USIBWC, thank you, Mayor Duncan, for allowing us to use this wonderful facility. A special shout out to Michelle Miller, Secretary to the City Manager for her help coordinating with us. Before turning this meeting over to the Citizens Forum co-chairs, I want to make a brief announcement. Tonight, we start taking applications for our new San Diego Citizens Forum Board. We want to thank the current board for their faithful and dedicated service. We want to encourage as many of the public to apply for the board as possible, and our current board members are welcome to reapply if they wish. As they will tell you, serving on the board is a fun and rewarding volunteer, and I emphasize the word volunteer, assignment. The board was established for the exchange of information regarding USIBWC activities in the Tijuana River region. Board meetings are open to the public and act as the focal point for the exchange of information between the USIBWC and the local community regarding ongoing and future USIBWC projects and related activities. The board conducts regular public meetings in person and online 3 times per year to discuss plans and issues related to ongoing and future USIBWC projects and related activities. And one benefit that the board members enjoy are field trips, including a field trip to our plant there in South Bay. In addition, the board selects a member to serve as a co-chair together with our San Diego area operations manager to run the meetings. Details on how to apply and the deadline for applications are right up here on the screen in front of you. If you have any questions about the board or you forgot to bring your cell phone, I have my business card there at the front desk and you can go ahead and pick it up and we'll be glad to send you any information you need. Now, without further ado, I'd like to turn the gavel over to our co-chair, Mr. Brian McNeese.
We have kind of a hybrid audio system. I'm not sure how it's going to work. Last time we had a meeting here, the folks online could not hear us. Hold on. This one's not turning off. Let me try it from over here. So anyway, can you guys hear me all right? Yes. And hopefully people online can hear me as well. I'm using my phone as a microphone. And so I'm Brian McNeese. I'm a retired Imperial Valley College educator. I've been studying and researching and writing about water issues for 30 years, really mostly the Colorado River. But since I moved from Imperial Valley, I've been on this board and studying the Tijuana River area. So I'd like to have our board members introduce themselves. And we'll proceed through that way, and then we'll continue with the agenda. I think you can use a mic and my phone. Well, go ahead, see how it works.
Good evening. My name is John Sarum. I'm a retired Navy captain and a retired federal employee. I was in the Government Accountability Office for many years, and then with SPAWAR, U.S. Navy across the Bay. Now I'm more kind of a professional volunteer. Besides this, I've been with Borderfield State Park and the estuary down in Imperial Beach for the last 13 years. I've been the lead volunteer. And I also volunteer with Fish and Wildlife, Forest Service, and Chula Vista Parks and Recreation. And that's about it. I was told to keep it brief. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. John Duncan. I'm currently the mayor of Coronado, litigation attorney by trade, and obviously the Tijuana sewage issue is near and dear to my heart and the heart of Coronado. So thank you so much, everyone.
I'm Mary Johnson Powell. I'm the president of the Tijuana River Valley Equestrian Association. We have over 100 members, and at least 60 of them keep their horses in the Tijuana River Valley. Mine have been there since about 2007.
I am Alberto Pombo. I'm a professor, a retired professor of Mexico, working for about 30 years in water sanitation and colonias in the U.S.-Mexico border.
Hello, my name is Leon Benham. I'm president of the Citizens for Coastal Conservancy, a nonprofit out of Imperial Beach. In my professional life, I've been the project manager and estimator on the Bayshore Bikeway, 2 projects in the Tijuana River Valley that built 11 miles of trails. I've worked for the county on numerous water contamination projects, and I'm very happy to be part of the board.
Good evening, Emily Allen, Areas Operations Manager for USIBWC, and I'm also the co-chair.
Good evening, Chad McIntosh, U.S. Commissioner, IBWC. This is my first public meeting since I've been appointed, and I am happy to be here and to talk with you all about these issues.
Very good. So we were very happy to have you here, Commissioner McIntosh. And Commissioner McIntosh will be speaking shortly. He's our first speaker, followed by our contractors on the plant expansion, PCL and the South Bay wastewater treatment plant, on with the update on the quick 100-day project that our commissioner has instituted that we're really happy to hear about. So I guess I'll go ahead and pass the microphone to Commissioner McIntosh, and he can introduce himself a little more and his staff and what's going on at the border.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm gonna step up here. Probably start an echo again, maybe.
Yeah, maybe we'll just, so we need to use your phone here then still.
Testing. Okay.
Okay, we're working.
What you've all been going through over the last few decades is been unacceptable. The impacts you've all experienced from the Mexican sewage that that's been coming over the border is unacceptable. The odors, the beach closures, the aerosols.
As a crap load, because
You've been
takes
going
an hour to
through a
reach.
lot. I became aware of this in 2018 when I was appointed by the president to head up the EPA International and Tribal Affairs Office. And I was pretty happy to be part of trying to help with the solutions back then. And I was pretty excited about the fact that we were able to help negotiate a significant amount of money, at least to the U.S. side and to the other side, $300 million to expand the South Bay plant. And then, as you all know, I had to leave in January of 21. And when I came back in January of 25, I was pretty astounded at the lack of progress that occurred in this area. And in fact, from my perspective, which was being away for 4 years, I saw a lot of planning had taken place, but I didn't see any actual projects. And when the opportunity arose, I was the acting deputy administrator for EPA. It was an awesome job. But when the opportunity to become commissioner of the IBWC came up, I was I was very honored the president appointed me, and I want to really start that. Our we Administrator Zeldin, President Trump, and we're working to ensure that and make the Mexicans accountable for everything that they've done. The impacts again upon you all has been unacceptable. I've actually, my responsibilities go from the southern tip of Texas all the way to California. But I wanted to let you all know that since my appointment in mid-April, I have not been to my headquarters yet at El Paso. I'm here every week at San Diego because this is something that we can take care of, but it takes constant work and constant hard work on the projects on our side, but also constant pressure on Mexico to step up to all their responsibilities. We have a list of the Mexican projects that I think if you go to our website, there's a minute 328 list, and perhaps at some point in the meeting we can give you the link for that. But when we got the $300 million, I can assure you right now, all of that money plus the additional money that Congress has given us is at our disposal on the U.S. side. One of the larger things we're pushing the Mexicans to do is to become accountable for the money that they had, and there's approximately $88 million that are still that doesn't seem to be accounted for. Mexico is aware of it, and they said they are working to get that back in the mix. But every time Mexico asks for us to help with their projects, we raise that issue, and when I say President Trump and Administrator Zeldin, Administrator Zeldin has many meetings in the White House, and almost in every meeting since March, he's asked about what's the progress at Tijuana River, what are we doing to resolve the issues, and we are working for the overall solution. What I don't like to do in meetings like this, though, is to promise you all new things or things that we're going to do, because you and your families have heard it for decades. And I hope after the next couple of years, you'll be able to judge us for our actual accomplishments and what we've gotten Mexico to step up and do. And but we'll continue to do that. I can't promise you any dates of when the beaches will open, or when the stench will be resolved, or when the lands will be cleaned. But I can tell you everything we're doing, all the projects we're working on, all the meetings we've had, and I've had, since I've been here in April, I've had now 4 meetings with my Mexico section on all these projects. We're pushing for the solutions. But again, I know that doesn't really cut it for those of you that have been living through all this, because we just got to get the projects done. And I hope to come back in a fairly short time and start describing what actually has been accomplished. Again, I don't want to get into a whole lot. President Trump is and demands that a whole of government approach is taken on all these issues. And I wanted to assure you that, for example, today I was able to meet with the head of the Corps of Engineers on Tijuana. The State Department is wholly engaged. And in fact, the Deputy Secretary, Chris Landau, was down in Mexico City this week, speaking with the president about many issues, but about this issue also. Ambassador Ron Johnson in Mexico is he was just confirmed, and he's fully engaged also. But the entire federal government is at our disposal, and we'll use everybody that we need to get this job done. I think just very briefly, you're going to hear tonight about the incremental expansion at South Bay. We decided to do a 10 million gallon per day expansion. It was originally scheduled for 2 years. I had our engineers and our contractors sit down one of my first days on the job, and I asked them how fast could we go if they didn't have any of the roadblocks.
Sorry, I don't talk this much.
And it was them that came up with 100 days. I didn't just say, let's do it in 100 days, but it was our engineers and the contractors that we have on board. And they were pretty positive and excited to step up to the plate on that. So we're going to talk about that, because I think our 100 days is up on August 28th. And I know that we got to deliver. On the Mexico side, they've got a lot of work to do with their Minute 328 projects, and we are reviewing every project with them and pressure testing the projects per Administrator Zeldin's directions and requests to make sure they stay on schedule and budget. And we do have a lot of work to do. The international collector was installed and is operational. I mean, there's some incremental progress there. Their new San Antonio de los Buenos plant is up and running, although we haven't seen effluent data yet. And that's 18 million gallon per day additional help. And when you add that to our 25 million gallons per day at South Bay, plus the 10 million gallon per day incremental expansion, it is significant. Our EPA people, and by the way, I need to say, Doug Lyden, raise your hand. Doug Lyden, who's been working on this for many years, I'm very disappointed that he has decided to retire from the EPA. But I'm also working very hard to try and hire him so he's not retired very long. So I'm working on that. But again, I didn't want to make promises. I just want you to judge us by our actions. But anyway, congratulations, Doug, to an incredible career. Your knowledge of the Tijuana River projects on both sides of the border is without compare. And we really need you to stay, and we'll work to make that happen. Anyway, our EPA folks, when we went down to inspect the plant, the new San Antonio plant, we did go to the ocean outfall, and EPA said they smelled chlorine there for the first time instead of sewage. And I only say that because I think that could be a positive indication that there is some improvement happening. But there is a lot of work to do, and the president and the administrator and myself, this is Mexico's problem. It's Mexico's sewage that's impacting you all, and it needs to be taken care of by the Mexicans, and our commitment is to keep working on that until it gets solved. We have we have had a number of real minor successes during the construction of the international collector. There were 3 or 4 times when we were able to stop upset flows coming to the U.S. and that my counterpart has been fairly responsive to our work with her. So, and she's, I think she gets it that her president actually wants these issues to get resolved. But we have a lot of work to do. I don't want to make any other promises, but if you'd indulge us for a little bit, the commission would like to talk about the progress we're making on the initial incremental expansion. So again, thank you for having me. I'm very sorry for the impacts you all have been experiencing. It's unacceptable, and we look forward to working with you all to get these issues resolved. Thank you. Do this and then take some questions. Yeah, if that would work. Okay. So
we're going to move on to the second presentation of the program tonight. We have with us tonight the representatives from PCL, Jeff Newman, who's the project manager, and Mike Watson, who's the designer of record. We look forward to hearing what's going on in the plant.
Well, thank you. We're going to start out with a brief overview of the progress we've made through design at the plant, and then we're going to get into the 100-day expansion. My name is Jeff Newman. I've been with PCL Construction. We're the general contractor. I've been with PCL for over 20 years and now most of my time in Southern California delivering water and wastewater projects.
My name is Mike Watson. I'm the designer of record. I work for Stantec. I have 35 years of experience in water and wastewater. Last 15 years has been focused on collaborative delivery or alternative delivery, which is what we're doing here. This is a progressive design build project in which the owner, in this case IBWC, has hired the designer and contractor to work together to bring solutions to the project. The idea around that is we're doing a lot of things in parallel versus serially in order to accelerate the project. So as Jeff said, we're going to start with kind of explaining the overall project improvements, where they sit right now, and then get into the 10 MGD increase in 100 days. What you're seeing here is a kind of an aerial view from the south looking north. The gold areas are areas of new facilities that will be built or expanded upon. And then the gray facilities are existing facilities in the area. And then these kind of rectangles over here on the left are pads for future expansion of the project. Try clicking once. Good. The flow enters from Tijuana down at the bottom of the page there, and it flows into the existing inflow pump station, which is in gray, just to the right of that highlighted area, the new integrated headworks. One of the significant things that we identified thus far in the project, there was a question, should we expand the existing inflow pump station or build a new one next to it? As we looked at the structural integrity of the pump station, the severe wear on the pumps, and some of the debris that we're having to manage from Mexico, it became very apparent that a new integrated headworks was necessary. One of the benefits of this new integrated headworks is it has a much more robust grit handling system compared to the existing one. And that will provide defense and fortify the rest of the plant. Moving to the next one. We're going to be providing a new chemical system and expanding the primary sedimentation tanks, adding 2 to the existing 5. And we're going to create advanced primary using chemically enhanced primary treatment system. The existing 5 units, the first time we were at the plant, had palm trees growing in them. And it was after a series of storm events, and they were basically inundated. The front of the plant was able to handle the amount of sediment and grit. And so we're providing, again, a more robust integrated headworks and chemically enhanced primary systems to improve the front end of the plant. Let's see. Oh, good. So that part that I just talked about is called pre-treatment and primary treatment. And now what we just moved over to here on the left is 7 new activated sludge tanks built to the south of the existing 7, and then 10 new secondary sedimentation tanks. This is referred to as secondary treatment in the wastewater world. This is where the biology and the bugs further break down the wastewater and improve the ethanol quality. Okay. So in wastewater, you're basically separating water from suspended solids, right? And so as you do that, you have to deal with those solids. And as we double the plant capacity from 25 mgd to 50 billion gallons per day with a peak of 75 billion gallons per day, we have a lot more solids to deal with. And so as part of this project, we'll be adding a whole new solids thickening and storage system. And then I think if you click one more time, we'll also be providing a new sludge dewatering system in the existing building. We're going from belt presses to centrifuges, which have much more capacity than the existing system, and will handle a lot more sludge to dewater. And also that row of kind of large vessels that you see just to the right is a much more robust odor control system that will be treating combination of the integrated headworks, the solids building, and the primary sedimentation tanks. Okay. So the larger treatment plant will also require more staff to operate it. The existing personnel building is inadequate to handle that. So we'll be building a new personnel building right next to the one that exists there and rehabbing the existing one to provide even more space for staff. And then all of this takes a lot of power. The amount of power is phenomenal. We're moving water, water's heavy, and then we're also blowing a lot of air as part of the activated sludge tanks, which requires a lot of power. So we'll be bringing in 2 new feeds from SDG&E, 12 kV, new electrical building, new switch gear to basically power everything. There's a few other ones that aren't labeled here, but we're bringing in, or we're going to be building a warehouse, some electrical buildings, but that's kind of an overview of where we're at right now with the design.
So some of the work that we've completed to date as part of the design development, we've had several crews out on site, outside on the grade. You can see on the left here, one of our crews getting into manholes. They're as-builting existing elevations, alignment of all the underground utilities. We continue to feed that information to Mike and his team to incorporate into the new design. The picture in the middle, that's actually some of our trade people getting into one of the existing basins. As part of our work, we had to do a full structural assessment of pretty much all the concrete throughout the site, as well as a facility assessment for all the equipment. This took a considerable amount of work to coordinate to be able to take it down without decreasing the capacity of the plant, isolating, bypassing, but we've completed that work now. And one of the other major deliverables, we validated all the design elements necessary to deliver the 50 MGD. We're in alignment with IBWC. And what's that mean? The design has progressed to about the 30% mark. And more importantly, we're to a point where we're going to start putting out early works packages and start construction throughout the area.
Jeff mentioned early work packages. Typical design and construction, designers will prepare a set of construction drawings. They will be advertised. The contractors will look at them, bid them, and then begin building. It's been done since I started many years, but with progressive design, build, delivery, it allows us to take bits of the project and accelerate those bits. So we'll go over some examples on the next slide, but really what it allows us to do is advance critical items of the project, sometimes for benefit of. Are you guys hearing me okay? That better? Okay, thanks. Sometimes for the benefit of the reliability of the plant, sometimes for the benefit of safety. There's actually areas of the plant right now that we don't let people walk because the concrete has eroded that much. So there's an early work package to address that. And from a standpoint of construction phasing and a progressive design build world, my job is to design elements in time for Jeff to build them so we can accelerate that design construct as mostly as possible. We refer those to basically as early work packages.
So the packages that we have moved forward today, we split one into 3 different parts, and this is mainly the rehabilitation of the existing facility. 1A is improvements to the grit facility, replacing a lot of that equipment that's aged in that area. That is already been executed. Well, the design has been executed, the equipment's in manufacture, and we expect the first pieces to arrive in August of this year. And we're ready to start installation. 1B, and we have a picture there. You can see the concrete, how it's in rough shape, right? And this is typical throughout some of the existing areas. But that 1B structural repair early work package, the design was complete about a week ago, and that work will begin shortly. 1C is replacement of the critical equipment, and this is everything from beginning to end of the process in the plant. It's a considerable amount of work. That design has also recently been completed. We expect work to begin this fall as the material shows up. And the good thing about this one is every new piece of equipment we install eliminates 1 point of failure as we build the rest of the facility. Package 2 is going to be prepping and improving the sites. We're pretty close to having our civil drawings to a point where we can start excavation of the new structures. So we'll start that excavation or shoring while Mike continues design work on the new structures. So when those holes are dug, Mike's design will be done, or Mike's design will be done, and we'll begin construction. And then finally, the third package is going to be the long lead equipment. We have some very long lead electrical equipment, as Mike was discussing. We should be to a point in the fall where we're ready to order that, even if we have to upsize it a little bit to make sure we're getting it here on time.
So now we'll talk a little bit more about the increase of 10 MGD of advanced primary capacity of the treatment plant in the next 100 days. First one, kind of talk about the situation. My arms are too short here, but I'll try. So yellow circle in the middle there is South Bay International Wastewater Treatment Plant. The Tijuana River, as most people know, is flowing from Mexico up across the border and out into the river. The Tijuana River is supposed to be more of a seasonal stream. That means in summer months, when it's not raining, there shouldn't be a lot of flow in the river. However, there is flow in the river, and the majority of it is untreated sewage. And so what's happening currently is flows from down here are flowing up towards the north. During a portion of the day, Mexico is able to divert flows from the Tijuana River, which is really a concrete lined channel at that point, into PB Sila. PB Sila then pumps to PB1, and then PB1 can go to South Bay International Wastewater Treatment Plant or to the new treatment plant and out to the coast. What's happening because of capacity constraints in the afternoons and evenings, the PB Sila is shut down because the rest of the system either doesn't have the capacity to take the sewage, or there's not enough power in the area to pump the sewage. So what happens is it continues to flow across the border and then into just south of Imperial Beach, and it discharges at the beach. You guys all aware of. Okay. So what this 10 MGD of early capacity increase is intended to do is it's intended to increase the capacity of the international treatment plant in order for more flows to be diverted from the Tijuana River in Mexico and shifted towards the international wastewater treatment plant. Thus, downstream of PB Sila, there should be a lot less flow in the Tijuana River. We've looked at gauging stations on the Tijuana River, and typically during dry months when there's no special activities, it's in that range of 8 to 10 million gallons per day. It can increase if there's further problems in the Mexico systems, but typically it's in that 8 to 10 million gallon range per day. So again, the intent is for us to increase the dry weather capacity, treat it to advanced primary, and then to blend that with the 25 MGD of secondary treated sewage, and then discharge that through the South Bay Ocean outfall 3.5 miles offshore. So we're taking raw sewage in the Tijuana River, diverting it, giving it at least primary treatment, and then instead of discharging it like it does if it just goes into the Tijuana River and discharges to the beach, it's discharged 3.5 miles out in the ocean. There's improved pollution, basically. There's a gentleman with a question back there.
That was 2 piles, PB1A and PB1B, with much more. The electrical problems, they should, right now, I mean, 8 hours, it's on 5 a.m., goes off at 3. You're at about 10 million left at night a day. They have 2 banks, 4 and 3. They have 60 million capacity at Sila. They could turn it all on right now and dry that river off. And you wouldn't, 30 could go to the coast, 30 could go to the plant. You're talking about 2019, 2020 problems in Mexico. We should be, I mean, Sila was brought online, upgraded in 2020 by Jane Harkins. I worked hard with Nicholas Chapa as a civilian activist to bring that diversion online. It's highly effective. I worked with former Commissioner Heener in the fall of 24, September, brought online September 11th. Beaches opened a week later. It went to 0 in the fall. I worked with her this March trying to bring it online. was brought online, correlates almost directly to Lee Zeldin speaking about it and the president speaking about it. So I'm thankful for that. But you should be able to pump all of that sewage to the coast of Mexico right now. We should not have to receive even partially treated sewage off our coast. And that's just the way I view the system. That's how I know the system. And that's how the system was taught to me. So to only even list one pipe isn't correct to me.
I appreciate that, sir, and I appreciate your passion. We can all hear your voice. This is a very simplified version. Exactly. The message is we all have to do our part. So there needs to be binational coordination and efforts to increase treatment south of the border. Additional treatment capacity north of the border can help the system as well.
It's a $35 million upgrade, sir. You've upgraded redundancies every step of the way over the last 5 years. For you to say there's electrical problems is so difficult for you to accept.
There are still two pipes, there's PB1A and PB1B, there's still pumping.
Why are we pumping all that?
He already mentioned why.
Electrical redundancies that have been existing for 5 years.
There are issues with the capacity of PB1 and shunting water into the treatment plant, as well as he mentioned, electrical capacity for pumping. All those pumps are still in place. You can say 3 minutes at public comment time.
You can go to the next slide.
So for our fast tracking of the on-site capacity, we've highlighted the 4 main areas that will be putting in temporary equipment or upgrading existing. We're going to upgrade some of the piping and valves in the influent pump station, specifically in the grid area. That material has just arrived and we will be installing it in about a week. We are adding a chemical system that's been down for a while to the primary sedimentation tanks. That equipment is on order. 4 tanks and 2 chemical skids, and then we'll have mobile sludge dewatering and thickening units that are also been ordered as part of this expansion. Everything we've expedited, the temporary equipment and materials, and right now, while we're waiting for those to arrive, we're prepping the area for delivery. So here's an example. It takes a long time to build a new facility. So what we went out and did was source temporary truck-mounted equipment. Here's an example of the dewatering screw press that provides additional treatment capacity, and it'll run parallel to the existing buildings. We'll just plumb it in. It's going to support the removal and handling of the additional solids that we're going to get from the additional 10 MGD of flow. This is an interim step to make the 100 days viable while the permanent solution is designed and built. And here's just wanted to quickly go over our 100-day timeline. In May, we're given the notice to proceed. We've procured the equipment, sent out the purchase orders. We've already mobilized the site. We're going to start demolition and installation here in the next week. In July, early part of July, we expect delivery of that first screw press. Mike's also going to complete his design work in July. A lot of construction will be going on. And we are scheduled for equipment testing late August and then to start increasing the additional flow by the end of August.
So as we do this, we need to do it in such a way that the goalie can continue to maintain the 25 MGD of secondary treatment per day. As we do that, as I mentioned, we're going to be adding a total capacity of 35 MGD, 10 of which will be treated through primary treatment or advanced primary, blended with the 25 MGD and then going out to the outfall. This is intended again to help decrease dry weather flows in the Tijuana River, which decreased dry weather flows in the Tijuana River should have a positive impact, or will have a positive impact given the nature of the flow of the Tijuana River. and the associated improvement in air quality. Is this going to fix the entire situation by itself? No, it's not. It's intended to advance things early to help begin to solve the problem. So in summary, as Jeff mentioned, we're on track. I mean, we met with Commissioner McIntosh, very first meeting. What can you do to accelerate this effort? This is the first step in doing that. We're on track to do it. The equipment is critical. Equipment's on order. It's scheduled to show up on site next month.
Starting in early August. Yeah.
Early August.
Or early July, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. We'll get that hooked up. And we hope that additional capacity will allow for reduced flows in the Tijuana River.
Thank you. Thank you for that. To all the non-engineers in the room, I'm a licensed chemical engineer, so I really like the way all these guys talk, but we'll try to do our best to explain things as we go. I appreciate all the passion that I am hearing, and you deserve answers to all the questions, and some of the answers we'll have to get back to you on, and some we'll be able to answer tonight. Again, you heard about the 10 million gallons per day, and you probably noticed that there in a couple places they mentioned 50 million gallons per day. When I came on board, I saw that the 10 million gallons per day was a 2-year schedule, and I asked if we could go faster, and our great staff and contractors said yes. I've asked the same question on the 50 million gallons per day because the original schedules I saw, it was going to be another 5-ish years, and so we're in the process of working to accelerate that. But there's not much I can tell you about that right now. I did want to mention too, as you've all been reading in the media, there's a lot of politics going on, and I got to say, a lot of the politicians are the most educated in this area that I've come across in a long time. Some are trying to make this issue a campaign issue. I'll be doing my best to just give it to you straight and without the politics. And you should know the demands that are placed upon me by my boss, the president, and Administrator Zeldin is just to get these things fixed. And it's not just our side. Tonight we're talking about what we're doing on our side, but we are the IBWC is working hard with the Mexican section. Administrator Zeldin is working hard with Sermonat, and the president is working hard with President Shinbaum to get this solved on the other side. So with that, I don't know, Brian, should we take questions now, or how would you like to proceed?
I think we should take questions from the board to start with, and then maybe online questions.
Chelsea Rescue Towns in the eastern paralyzed due to a lot of comment. The areas one of South Africa's poorest regions.
Any questions
Rescue
from the board?
teams are
Comment or question from Leon?
Yeah, I previously when the plant was, say, working, we had an operational cost of about 14 million a year to operate the plant. Now we are bringing in 12 kV of power, and that power is going to be very expensive, especially in the future. So the first thing is part of that 14 million to build and operate the IBWC plant was funded and supposedly paid for a portion by Mexico. Is there anything in the works with Mexico where they're going to reimburse us
the operating cost of the plant. That would be the first thing. Obviously, what is the operating cost projected for the plant? And
Can we answer that one first?
Yeah.
And then- so I'd ask my engineers, or Sally. Sally is the secretary for the American section of IBWC, and she knows everything.
I know a little bit about some things. So, minute 328, which is the agreement where we agreed to do the plant expansion and a lot of work in Mexico as well as a US-Mexico partnership. It has a table in it that specifies how much Mexico pays per cubic meter of wastewater that's treated, and that amount, which is in pesos, it's on a schedule to increase every year. The United States government subsidizes the treatment. Mexico's cost for treatment is based on what it would cost to treat that sewage in Mexico to Mexican standards. So it's a fraction of what the true O&M cost is. When the original plant was built, Mexico also contributed toward the capital cost of that based on what they were going to spend on the plant in Mexico. So it will be increasing on an annual basis. But in terms of the overall O&M cost with the expansion, I don't have the answer to that, and I'm not sure who does.
that's okay. But that's something the public is interested, because we're on the hook for 20 years. If this plant has a 20-year useful life, 14 million a year compounded over 20 years, it's a lot of money. And it's paid for by us, the Mexican, by the US taxpayer. So that was what they, the other question that I had was that, the mixing of the river water with the treated component, and we have three components. We have the city of San Diego, which is about 7 million gallons a day, and they're in compliance. We have the IBWC portion, and that permit is 40 million gallons a day tops. So by blending this material, including the solids that they contain, are we in compliance with the San Diego County Water Quality Board permit? And has those discussions for increased volume and increased solids been considered? Thank you.
So this is throughout my career in environmental compliance, this has been a very unique experience I'm going through, because we have actually been in significant discussions with the regulatory boards about how to get to a point where we're rapidly improving the situation, and not necessarily meeting all their permitting timelines, because if we did that, it would take a very long time to get our work done. So we're working cooperatively with the regulatory board, and to make the improvements. I don't know if any of my group wants to talk a little bit more about the regulatory details.
Very good question. So International Plant does have their own waste discharge permit, and it's limited to 25 MGD per day. And it's basically expects to have secondary treated level effluent. So from the constituents of TSSBOD, there's numeric values associated with that. We've met multiple times with the regional board. A member of their staff is here today. Thank you, Melissa. And the commissioner is exactly right. The schedule that we're asking is phenomenal compared to what's typically done in terms of notice period, in terms of getting allowing the regional board to do their analysis. They've committed to work with us. We've scheduled weekly meetings with them. Next week we'll be meeting and presenting our biological modeling results to begin the discussions of what that would need to look like for the additional 10 MGD capacity.
Thank you.
Again, a huge challenge, and the board really is stepping up as a partner in helping get these improvements done.
Any more questions from the board? Yes, Mayor Duncan.
Thank you. Just a couple of brief comments. I just want to say thank you to the commissioner for being here. Appreciate it, especially you haven't been on the job yet 2 months, so we appreciate your dedication to the issue. And obviously, we all want details and more information and the answers, but we appreciate you jumping in so quickly and so hard. Also, I just want to take 1 second. I usually do this at the start, but my city council member Amy Stewart is here. Council member Jack Fisher and Mitch McKay from Imperial Beach are here as well. And just wanted to make sure they were recognized and thank you for participating. And who else is here that I'm missing? Oh, Kelly Purvis, council member from Coronado as well. I didn't see you. Thank you, council members. That's all I have. Thank you.
I think we have one board member, Richard Kai, online. Is there any question from Richard by chance? And Amy as well. I mean, Mary as well. Go ahead, Mary.
I want to say thank you for all you're doing. It's not easy. We know how hard it is. But will there be some mechanism, and I know you don't want to make promises now, but would there be some mechanism that the federal government could help the city and the county government, who are totally overwhelmed by this problem, with the sewage that has settled in the Tijuana River Valley under the Hollister Street bridges and that comes through the outfall pipe at the Saturn Road crossing? It creates a lot of turbulence, and that's what's creating a lot of aerosols for the people just north of the river. Those are relatively simple engineering things to fix, I think. Would there be some way that they could, and also the vast amount of sediment that is coming into Smuggler's Gulch, and it's almost filled it up, even though it was just dredged last year, it's almost completely filled it up again because of the lack of erosion control in Mataderos Canyon. And that's going to cause another flood. Is there some way that the federal government could release some funds for engineers to actually fix those problems?
Our first approach is working with Mexico to get them to pay to fix those problems, and those are part of our discussions. I have no resolution I can tell you about right now, but we do intend to deal with those issues. I don't know if my staff wants to say anything else about the sediment.
We do have a bit of good news on the Smuggler's Gulch, which is that they are, over the summer, they're going to start construction of a sediment basin on the Mexican side. So for those of you who are familiar with that area, there's a big highway construction project in Mexico at Matadero Canyon, which is what they call Smuggler's Gulch on the Mexican side. It's been underway for a couple of years now, and it's just dirt. I mean, they've cleared it out. There's construction, and that's what's contributed to the accelerated amount of sediment that we've seen over the last couple of years. And so we have been at every single meeting. We've been hammering, when are you going to start the construction? When are you going to start the construction? Interestingly, they told us last year they were going to start in December. In February, they told us, oh, we don't have the money for it. In April, they said, we're going to get started this summer. So things are moving along. So we should see some relief for that sediment problem there.
You said. And Emily is our site manager.
So regarding the Saturn Boulevard Bridge, we are working on a weekly basis with the county to the city of San Diego, looking at the solutions specifically for the issue that you're talking about.
Thank you.
So we have any more questions now from the audience? Okay, let's start with Mitch. And, we have another. Go ahead, Mitch, and then we'll get back to John, board member.
Thank you very much, Mitch McKay, City of Imperial Beach Council member. I want to thank Chad McIntosh, the new commissioner, for coming out and being brave enough to show up. I did have a question. I was a little concerned about the comments about blended affluent. Sounds like a great coffee drink. But my concerns are, I know that the USIBWC has, under its charter, a requirement to monitor the South Bay Ocean outflow. With this given suggestion or recommendation for a blended effluent, which we have to understand is going to exceed the permit requirements. Is there going to be increased monitoring of the South Bay Ocean outfall during this time period when we know you're dumping more solids into the effluent? Thank you.
Thanks, any of my staff can talk to that.
I don't know if I can give you a complete answer, but we are also meeting weekly with the city of San Diego and coordinating operations and any adjustments to the South Bay Ocean outfall as a result of this blended effluent scheme. And if I'm correct, the original plant before the secondaries were built was the primary plant that discharged as well. And it's one of the things that we've asked for from the city of San Diego is any historic operations records that could indicate what differences there may be from an operations standpoint or impact on the diffusers themselves. So we're in ongoing conversations with them.
So history notwithstanding, I think it needs to be a recommendation. So I'm making that recommendation or request from the city of Vero Beach that you look at instituting either additional or shorter intervals for testing at the outfall. Because I think currently it's a contracted out service and I think it happens quarterly. And so, if this is truly part of a solution, let's make sure we're not contributing to the problem.
John Zarum, Strand Way.
Thank you. My question is the plant in Mexico, is it fully operational now? And how do we make sure they keep it properly maintained? Because it's been a problem before.
And that's the several $1 million question, I think. We were down there, was it last week, I think, and it appeared to be fully operational. It's from a engineering standpoint, it's a pretty neat plant, ultra modern, and seemed to be operating fine. We were told by the general's name. Sorry, General Manzano, who is kind of their Army Corps of Engineers guy. Yeah, I think he did a bang up job on building the plant. But again, number one, it's treating 18 million gallons a day, so it's not the whole issue. And number two, one of the reasons I want to make sure we have an adequate expansion on the U.S. side is because I'm always concerned about O&M on the Mexican side. So we need some redundancies to make sure that we are protecting the Americans in the future. So two things. I want to make sure we get the right capacity. So 5 or 10 years from now, we're not having these same meetings because the population grew so large in Tijuana. And also 10 years from now, if we have more equipment failures on the Mexican side, that we've anticipated that. So that is a big concern.
Thank you.
Actually, I had a question myself, because I know when the director of EPA, Lee Belvin, came, one of the things he mentioned was that the Amendment 328 project in Mexico to take the water, the effluent from the 2 treatment plants there, Artura and Mamorita, and pump that up into their reservoir. That would take 10 to 12 million gallons a day out of the river as well. So has there been any more progress on those projects?
So from my standpoint, again, I like reporting on actual progress, and we are in very good discussions in that area to make that happen, but I can't really report hard progress on that. But that is something we are working with our Mexican counterparts to push. Does any of my staff want to add to that?
Yeah, I think we have some more questions from the public over here. This one here in front of the white sweater.
Thank you. So I have two questions.
Can you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, thank you. My name is Sarah Powers and I am married to one of the people who works for Arcadis. So I have two questions and both kind of around the same thing. One of them is, will the plant have a methane cogen system either now or potentially in the future? And the second one is, I know the city of San Diego is doing a Clear Water project. East County is doing their advanced water purification project to reuse recycled water as drinking water. And will this project or a future project for this plant be able to contribute to that?
Anybody from my staff, contractors?
Nobody knows about the methane cogen.
Doug does.
Doug. Future IBWC employee.
Pressure.
Yeah, you trusted Doug on the way out tonight.
Future pensioner. So regarding, we had initially in the original design had anaerobic digesters specifically with that in mind. Unfortunately, cost just blew out any hopes of being able to do that on top of this. I think in the future, we've actually, the North American Development Bank actually looked at the economic feasibility study to look at the possibility of a public-private partnership. Even that, the return of investment is because of the fact that the cost to get rid of the solids in Mexico is practically nil for the United States. And so it makes it really hard to make it justifiable from a pure return on investment to justify anaerobic digesters, because the methane obviously is an important component, but the main thing that digesters do, as I'm sure you well know, is reduce the volume of sludge. So a lot of places, if this were not where it is, it might make sense to put in digesters simply because you reduce your disposal costs of the sludge virtually in half. And so that makes it much more economical to build methane digesters or anaerobic digesters. But just because of the fact we have a very fixed budget, our thought was makes a lot more sense right now if we want to solve the problem to build as big of a plan as possible with the money we have. If Congress in the future were to give more additional funds for that, I think that would be a worthwhile investment. But I think the overall cost was it was over $200 million additional for the methane digesters, or for the anaerobic digesters. So it really blew our budget out of the water. Regarding the water recycling, I know that it's a real, because the water, the source water is coming from Mexico, it makes it really difficult to meet California's drinking water standards, even solely because of the lack of industrial pretreatment or the control on industrial pretreatment in Mexico. And so it makes it really difficult to turn that water into a potable source for the state of California. However, Mexico, I know the Mexican federal government is very interested in buying that water back or turning that water. I've long argued that I think it's crazy that in an area that's so in desperate need of water that we're spending so much money to treat that water at such a high level and then just throwing it in the ocean. And so I think Mexico is starting to recognize that. You know, they've even done some side-by-side comparisons and determined that it's quite cost effective compared to the alternative, which is ocean desalination. So I think that those talks with Mexico will continue. Regarding the earlier question, we have a monthly meeting, bi-national meeting with Mexico. We discussed that one water reuse project in Tijuana. The first phase of that is to take the already treated wastewater and then pump it upstream of the Rodriguez Dam, solely to get it out of the river. And that allows for, if we can reduce the dry weather river flows in half south of the border, that makes it much easier to divert the rest of those flows to the coast. And so between that and the expansion of the incremental expansion. I think if you could get those two projects in place, you would basically see the elimination of dry weather transboundary flows. There are challenges with that project in terms of permitting that Mexico is currently contending with regarding the federal and state. I know that IBWC and we are working very closely to push that project and to remind them of the importance of that project. I think, and I know Mexico, talking to Mexico, we both agree that that should be the number one, the highest priority project for Tijuana. And it really serves two purposes. And then in the second phase, the first phase is just getting out of the river upstream of the dam. The second phase is to put a very sophisticated drinking water plant north of the River East Dam to take that water and treat it to potable levels. But for right, so it'd be essentially an indirect potable reuse project. But right now, it's just to get those flows out of the river. They are going to need to put on some additional treatment at the plant just because they don't want to create a bunch of algae in the dam and cause problems. Because I think they recognize that the public perception, if they turn the dam into a really stinky sort of mess, then it's going to be hard to basically go to the second phase and have a potable reuse project.
I should have probably said this up front, but whenever I mentioned Administrator Zeldin and the headquarters team at EPA, Doug and his colleagues at Region 9 have been just invaluable in this whole process. They're great partners in this, and they're all looking out for your interests, and they're very, very motivated to fix these issues. I also, the technology suggestions, please keep them coming. We may not be able to respond to them all right away, but as we're talking internally at our offices, out of the box stuff is fine. We're looking at all sorts of issues, potentially innovative ozone treatments of various streams, and one of my colleagues from my 4 days suggested MBR is a great way to double the capacity of the plant. But as Doug mentioned, probably the variability of the water of the effluent that we get from Mexico precludes that. But please, we're not don't know everything. Please let us know your thoughts and suggestions.
So actually, I got a question online from Carl Nettleton. It was on my watch, not disappeared. But he says he's asking if we do put this 10 million gallons a day expansion in place in 100 days, that will be immediately a net 10 million gallons a day out of the river. And secondly, he asks, is that a separate cost, separate distinct cost to pay to expand it by 10 MGD, or is that already folded into the big expansion up to 50?
Brady, you want to mention that? Our chief engineer.
Good afternoon, one of the CS principal engineer, and working with our PCL and Stantec team, the cost for this incremental increase is part of the budget that we're working. So we're coordinating with them to do that, and also making sure that any other decisions that we make through us, we're trying to keep moving the schedule and trying to get advances in early wins as much as possible, knowing what our budget is looking like as we're moving through this. So it's important to continue to work with them and have that dialogue, have the questions and answers that are coming in and requests that we can see what we can do. In this particular instance, the 10 is part of our original budget at this point.
It's a direct removal of 10 MGD.
That's correct.
Yes. You know what, just the last thing I was going to say about the budget, I do have to spend time in Washington talking to our congressional delegation, and I want to say the bipartisan support we have from our congressional delegation down here it's been really good. And so I have to talk to them a lot, and I encourage you all to keep your representatives very interested in what we're doing.
Ken, saw you in the back. Yeah, I'm in front of the camera. And then we'll have this woman here. And give the yellow cap.
I'm Justin O'Brien with Coronado Engineers. I had two questions. One might be a little bit needed because of the last explanation. I was gonna ask about the biosolids, what classification they are and where they're sent. And also well, the trash, because all the extra flow is bringing extra solid waste. And are we taking care of all that, or is there some sharing of where are they landfilling in Mexico or all in the US?
All of the trash and sludge and sediment, they go back to Mexico. They are prepared to take on additional sludge out of the additional 10 MHD.
Let's move right here. Water.
Hi, I'm Luann Shannon. I'm a resident in 92154. So I've been in the area for 48 years. I've dealt with this forever and it's been just horrible. So I have two questions for you. I know that we were talking about the dry season, all the things that happens. I'm wondering, what have you guys prepared for the rainy season? And then also, are they going to have money put aside for maintenance? From what I understand, I was there when they cut the ribbon for the first plant. And from what I understand, they didn't keep money aside to maintain it, and that's why it broke. So I'm wondering if they're gonna have money to maintain it over the years.
So the second question first, operations and maintenance is always a challenge, and that's a lot of what I'm not just talking to Congress on capital investment, but helping them get a reality dose of what it actually takes to keep these facilities up and running and not deteriorating. Because again, we've seen some Mexican facilities just totally become inoperable over the years because of lack of maintenance. And if we don't do our job right, it could happen on our side. And some of the things that keep me up at night are our operations and maintenance issue. But it's a constant education process with our appropriators to make sure we have an adequate funding for the operations and maintenance. And I already forgotten your first question. What was it again?
It was about the flows, like when it's rainy season, right now we're talking about.
What weather flows? So I don't want to get too technical on our treaty stuff. All these projects we've been talking about have been the Minute 328 negotiated projects under the 1944 treaty. And part of that minute does require us to look at the wet weather flows also. And we have scopes in place, and I need to go to Congress to get funding to actually implement the scopes. But we are planning per the treaty agreement to look at that. But we have no plans at the moment.
Tijuana has at least quadrupled since they built the first plant. And so that's a worry too, to bring it up to 50 million gallons a day. I'm not even sure that's adequate, but.
No, not during the wet weather flows, that's correct.
And I think that's Tom in the yellow cap. Right here. Yeah.
Yeah, my name's Tom DeFreitas. I retired from the gas electric company. I worked in our control center, where we manage the high voltage electric system. And when you talk about monitoring, the first thing I think about is SCADA, because the electric companies have to know what each other's flows and situational awareness, voltage, the whole bit. And no money is spared on that. And it's an energy management system. And so in order for the Baja Electric system to interconnect with the California system, they had to agree to allow the independent system operator to install their meters at their interconnection substations. And they have to allow them to come in and check their meters for accuracy periodically. It's usually a two-key system where the owners and the operator, the independent system operator, they both have access to those meters in a special room. And I don't know if that can be done, but if you guys can get SCADA on these flows, like at the plants and that, and we're able to go down there and assist in the maintenance of that to guarantee that those readings are accurate all the time. That's just a suggestion. And is it possible to put the map back up?
Not by me, but maybe someone else could.
So you were talking about the PVC station, and it's pulling its water from, or its flow from, I guess, an intake on the river, correct?
Correct.
So why can't we build one of those on our side, an intake, and send that to the plant? And I would think that could be done in 30 days. And what I'm talking about is when in the electric system, you always have backups to backups to backups. Everything has to be backed up. You can't have failure. With electricity, you cannot sit on your rear end. You have to act immediately because it doesn't wait for you. And I'm just wondering if you guys have thought about that, an intake on our side as a backup in case their system is off, doesn't work, there's some failure, and maybe that's a possible project. And the other thing I want to mention is I believe that there should be a separate sub-agency of you folks here in San Diego on site and their own budget, because dealing with, I'm not saying, I'm not criticizing the system right now, but if there's you guys are 800 miles away and you really have to have bodies here permanently with their own budget to oversee this thing. It's probably the biggest project you have in your at least from looking at the website,
So
in terms of its impact.
I'll answer your first question about the SCADA system. So we have the SCADA system within our plant, and SAB, the new treatment plant, they actually have advanced SCADA system. So we're in the process, and we actually had a bi-national meeting. We reached an agreement getting monthly flow data from them, and also we have agreed to get the water quality data from them.
But you also need to agree that you both will go down there and verify the equipment's working periodically, because they can send you anything.
Yeah, I agree. So the
We
other,
really should have our own meters down there.
we actually just installed the third meter, looking at flow going to SAB. So right now we have 3 meters to monitoring all the flows going into the plant and bypassing the plant going to the ocean. Second question about having a pump, trying to pump the river flow into our plant.
No. Our own separate intake in the river, like PVC level. We have our own, that pump that sends the flow to the treatment plant. We have our own pumps there. And in case their system failures, we have a backup to capture it that would stop the flows going down the river onto the beach.
So the intent of our treatment plant, because we have a secondary treatment, the more river flow we get that is diluted from the true raw sewage, it could damage our biological process. So the intent is for us to take out all of the sewage in tier 1 sewer system and then send all the river flow down south. So that's
It still doesn't answer my question.
So in that project I mentioned earlier, the future projects under the 328 minutes, does envision us looking at, they don't call it a diversion, but they do look at us water from the river and running it through an enhanced primary system that is actually separate from the plant. So it's one of those things we'll look at. I don't know, Doug, did you have any? And that,
No, you're absolutely right.
No, that was correct. We do have a study so that we can look at what Commissioner mentioned about an advanced primary treatment plant. That's on the north side of the border, so that we can take the river flow to that plant, do the advanced treatment on there. So that's the separate project of the $328 million projects that we're looking at, that to evaluate the process of how to do that. So that's something that we are looking into to see how the viability of work will to address that
Yeah, I
situation.
saw that in the minutes. I just think that should be pushed up to right now. You know, when the rain's pouring into your house, you're not sitting around figuring out what should we do. You're having to stop it. It's just my thoughts.
So thank you. And it is permanent. And I'm here almost permanently. We have been neglecting our online observers, so Frankie, do you have any questions or takers?
Hi, all. Can you hear me? This is Jeff Yoders from ENR. I am a engineering nerd too, being from ENR, so I really enjoyed your presentation, Jeff and Mike. The International Collector Project, it had a failure last rainy season where it resulted in 3.4 million gallons per day being sent to the river for a period of up to 6 weeks. Is that project on the Mexican side progressed to the point where that's not a risk anymore? Could that still happen?
Question on the international collector, who wants to take that?
That's one that we just completed.
Go ahead, take that, Ramon. Oh, go ahead.
So the International Collector Project, both phase one and phase two have been completed. And we have verified that.
Is it still is there still that kind of a risk of a failure, or is we beyond that?
Can you clarify on the failure?
The sewer collapse.
Oh, so yeah, it's has been rehabilitated. All the lines have been relined, and then the phase two really is a connection between pump station 1 in Mexico, and that's a primary pump station for all of their sewer system, to our JV1, the international plant. And they have realigned that section of line, along with adding a new, they call it junction box with 2 gate valves that they can divert and then control the flow to us.
Thank you.
And I can add, if you look on the IBWC river gauge, for the last week or 10 days, the river flow is way down. It's between 6 and 8 and 10 NGD now, instead of 24 or 30.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I'm attributing it properly. Thank you.
Any more questions online, Frankie?
Yeah, Brooke Truesdale.
Brooke? Okay, go ahead, Brooke. Brooke, maybe you're muted. We don't hear you. Okay, another one from online? No more. Okay, you had a question, sir?
Commissioner McIntosh, thank you for being here. We appreciate your presence. My name is Ramon Chaides. I grew up alongside that river valley, about a mile away from that treatment plant on this side of the border. Something that feels like we're glossing over, that I feel like is very low hanging fruit, and everyone who lives alongside that river can tell you this. And I know Mary mentioned it earlier, is what's happening at those culverts at Saturn Boulevard. So that seems to the entire community, it's something that could be done right away. It could have been done yesterday. It could have been done 3 years ago, 2 years ago, last year. Because we know that what's being released into the air out of those culverts is toxic. And we're slowly poisoning our community out of those culverts. I don't know what the long-term impacts are of chronic exposure to hydrogen sulfide and other toxic gases. I know that Leon has a lot to say about that, but I know it's not good. And the people that live alongside that river valley, those are homeowners, those are military servicemen, those are kids. There's 5 schools within a 2 to 3 mile radius around that hotspot. So why are we not doing something about those culverts? And so right now, as I look at I turn on the news and I see National Guard troops being sent all over the country, whether you think it's right or wrong, it's all being done in the name of protecting citizens. And so this is something that the administration can do very easily. I know that most of that land that surrounds the river belongs to the Navy. So why are we not doing something about it?
Okay, we have the question. Let me allow the commissioner to answer.
The things I can talk about, all the projects we're doing will have an impact on that. And when you say what we are looking at some pilots to deal with that area specifically, but I can't really talk about it now. I don't know if it's going to be successful, but we are looking at ways to fix that. But if you have a proposal,
We just need to eliminate the water pump effect. Culverts create a water pump effect. Cut off the sewage from Mexico at the port. It's easy. It's called a berm. It's called an earthen berm, and we could apply for permits from the Army Corps of Engineers at this volume in daytime right now and block it. We've done it in the past. I have the emails, I have the visuals, I have the documents. This is ridiculous. It's a berm.
Okay, we have a question or a comment from Mayor Duncan. No.
Any other, is there any thoughts, my staff on that? On the culverts?
Cut off the water. Try it out.
I think I mentioned earlier, we're working closely with the city and county and also the Navy side, working on redirecting, redesigning that particular area to stop the kind of document shooting out of for the sewage.
In the same fashion that we're getting a presentation on what's gonna happen in 100 days here, why can't we get a presentation on what's gonna happen with those culverts in 30 days? It seems like such a small project to do that the Army Corps of Engineers can come in and fix that within a week or 2 or 3. I don't know. It would move side of the valley. It would take it directly under Hollister Street Bridge. It used to be done by David Alvarez when he was the city council member down there. The horse ranches can verify it. The IBWC can verify it. The people who used to dredge the pilot channel can verify it. It takes the water away from Saturn. If you block the water at the border and dry out the valley, there is no hydrogen sulfide risk once the valley dries. I don't need to treat it. I just need it gone. I don't need a fixed culvert. I need no sewage in the valley from June 1st until October 1st. It's incredibly simple. Pump it over the hills, dump it at Punta Pendes. It's that simple. We need to begin to talk about protecting ourselves instead of protecting Mexican interests. They don't want to ruin the Rodriguez Reservoir. Well, I'm sorry. I'm tired of the Tijuana River Valley being unable to breathe. It is not our fault. Mexico is poisoning us. I am thankful the Trump administration has taken a hard line at the border, because anytime there is a hard line at the border, there is less sewage. That is a fact. I have the public data to prove it. It has always been a fact. And that is the way it is. If you want those culverts clean, go to Vivian Moreno. Get the permit. Clean them. Unfortunately, the county had a different idea and did some habitat restoration in that exact area, changed the pilot channel to accept
and stagnate water from Smuggler's Gulch. That was completed in this last year. That is also a fact. We are suffering from bad open space management, from poor, non-tough leadership, and I'm hoping, Commissioner, I'm so glad you're here because I am a Trump supporter. And I will happily stand with you and anybody else at that border, ask him to shut it down to stop the sewage. Happily. This is getting out of hand. We are spending billions, and the plant expansion does not address volumes of water introduced into the Tijuana River. That is a fact. Ms. Emily Allen just described that she does not want to take fresh water into her plant because she cannot process sewage with fresh water in her plant. She described a 60 million gallon a day expanded plant that only accepts sewage from central Tijuana. Going forward, conveyance pipelines PB1A and PB1B are to be decommissioned, meaning we do not even have the capacity to pump the water over the hill. This is an incredibly poor plan that we're pouring billions into. Billions into. We cannot build diversion because it's not concrete on our side, because the environmentalists stopped us from channelization 50 years ago.
Yep.
I want somebody to tell me they're going to block the sewage and they're going to ask Mexico to take responsibility for their sewage, because any water introduced right now into that channel is pure sewage, intentionally, purposely dumped on us because they have made no attempt to bypass, to build systems, to build plants, or to deal with the water. They have built a gilded highway to the coast. They continually pump sediment and water down Smuggler's Gulch on purpose, clogging our pumps, clogging our collectors, damaging all the work that we've done, and we all just sit there. It's ridiculous. It absolutely is ridiculous.
Okay, I think, Eric, I think that would constitute your public comment, and I appreciate it. We do have also Bethany's case. Keeping you silent?
Like, honestly,
Well,
the future of the plant will not convey water over the hill. That's an incredibly huge issue because the purpose of the plant was to accept water from the river. You have changed the purpose of the plant and you're not being honest. And I understand it's not your plan, but yeah.
PB1A, the pipeline PB1A and PB1B are not going to be decommissioned.
EPA to be decommissioned. I read the damn plan, man. Come on.
Doug Lyden, can you comment on that?
It's in the plan, Doug.
Originally, we had wanted, for both PB1A and 1B to be decommissioned was never it depends on what version we were looking at. We are looking at, as Commissioner mentioned, the possibility of taking the river flows either in Mexico through PBCLF or through a US side river, treating it at an advanced primary treatment plant. We don't currently have the money to do that. We also believe that if we do that upstream project, we could take enough flows out of the river, and with the expansion of the treatment plant, I think where you're mistaken is that it's a little bit of a shell game, and that as long as you want to send wastewater to the sewage treatment plant and not river water. And as Emily Allen mentioned, you have the pumping capacity. If you have the treatment capacity, you can send as much wastewater as possible. Ultimately, when 50 MGD, that means all the wastewater generated in that portion of the city will be sent to the international treatment plant. River flows will be small enough to be diverted through PBCLF, then through PB1, and sent to the coast. We had also talked about potentially treating the flows through the canyons at the expanded international treatment plant. Mexico did not want to do that, and so we'll be continuing to send those flows through PB1B
send those flows to the, not through PB1B, but through the line, through 1B line, send those canyon flows to the coast at San Antonio Los Buenos. And so it's a complicated system, which I think is the source of a lot of confusion. But I think
you know, I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry we can't make you happy tonight. You've got a lot of suggestions, and we're telling you what we're doing right now. And you obviously don't like, I guess, what we're doing. The minute 328 does have the rehabilitation of both PV-SELA and PV1. So I'm not sure what you're talking about on the decommissioning. But anyway, I'm sorry we can't make you happy tonight.
We have public comment by Bethany Case, who signed up earlier. Bethany Case. Oh, go ahead. We will have a 3-minute limit, and after 1 minute left, Frankie will hold up this yellow sign to indicate there's 1 minute left. We've been very lenient about that, but
I won't need 3 minutes. That's okay. Thank you so much. My name is Bethany Case. I am the Clean Border Water Now program lead for Surfrider San Diego. I am also a 16-year resident of Imperial Beach. We own 2 homes. First, I want to welcome you to your new post, Commissioner. Thank you for being here. We want to thank the IBWC for the consistent communication over the last 4 years. We would love to see that communication resumed as soon as possible. As a resident living in the impacted area, knowing when the plant or other infrastructure has had issues, when there's been excess flow and other important scheduled and non-scheduled events are taking place, has a positive impact on our daily activity. We can close windows, we can leave the area, or we can go enjoy the estuary near our home. What I want to know is how Surfrider can support the effort to resume regular communications with the public. Additionally, we'd like to hear a status update on the river diversion project when that's available. I know you mentioned it. Last fall, we participated in 2 meetings at the IBWC to help draft a scoping document. Our understanding is that funding is already set aside for a feasibility study and waiting for a green light. And I wanted to know if you did talk about an update on the progress of the study, but is there a timeline and is there anything we can do to help facilitate that moving forward quickly? Surfrider and our more than 5,000 members across San Diego County would love to see this study completed quickly so that the river diversion project can move forward to protect people's health. And then I have a letter for you that we sent via email, but I have a hard copy that I'd like to give you if that's okay. Thank you so much.
All right, we have Philip Musegas next.
Thank you. My name is Philip Musegas. I'm the Executive Director of San Diego Coastkeeper, and just have a request for the Commissioner and then a few comments. The request relates to what Bethany was asking for as well. Under the previous Commissioner, there were regular email updates sent to a public listserv relating to plant operations, infrastructure repairs in Mexico, weather conditions during Tropical Storm Hillary. We got a lot of updates through that. Once you became the Commissioner, and this is not a criticism of you, that just went silent. And it's a simple way to get the public, keep the public informed. And we use that to keep our members informed about what's going on. There's obviously a high degree of public interest and public concern, to say the least, about the lack of progress. And so we were just asking you to resume that email process. I think Frank and other people are familiar with that since they were here under the current administration, under the previous administration. Just a couple of comments. The 50 million gallon expansion design, I guess this was a question I had during Q&A, but I'll just make it as a comment and perhaps the engineers can answer it. My understanding is even if the expanded plant treats 50 million gallons a day, and the SAB plant treats 18 million gallons a day, that still will not treat all the sewage generated in Tijuana, even under current population numbers. And there's at least a 10 million gallon excess flow of untreated waste that is going to go somewhere, probably out to the ocean, and then be carried up to our beaches north of SAB's discharge. So just a question about the expansion actually is the design being done with enough flexibility to create further expansion of the capacity of the plant if the funding comes in a few years to do that? Because I guarantee you that's necessary. The Regional Water Board repeatedly in public statements have said they don't think 50 million gallons is enough. We understand the funding constraints, but that would be a question I would leave you with. And one last quick comment. I just want to, as politely as I can, correct the record about all of this being Mexico's problem. IBWC over the past 5 years at least, and probably many years before that, was in significant non-compliance with its Clean Water Act discharge permit. Coastkeeper filed a lawsuit against IBWC last April. And yes, can I finish my comment? Thanks, man. Since we filed our lawsuit over the past year, the plant has done a lot of repairs. The plant is now more in compliance than they were before, but there is a long history of IBWC letting the plant completely fall apart. You know, we all laughed at the fact that there were palm trees and tomato plants growing in the sedimentation tanks, but that's ridiculous. That should not be happening, and the agency should be ashamed that ever happened. So the fact that long history of neglect and pollution requirements, I'm wrapping up, that's why the public often doesn't trust IBWC. And so it's on you, unfortunately, to restore that trust, and we're happy to work with you to do that. And the first step in doing that is restoring this communication. Thank you. So all the folks who signed up for public comment, and Tom, you had your piece, so we'd like to move on with our agenda and talk about if the board has anything to add to the discussion, and also suggest future agenda items for the next meeting. Yes, Mayor Duncan.
Just a couple of quick comments. It's something you mentioned earlier about ensuring that the funding is there for the construction and maintenance to make sure that the IBWC plant doesn't break down. That is exactly what happened. It was only less than 3 years ago when the plant was broken down, and as the gentleman was mentioning about, it's not funny what happened. The truth is, though, also the IBWC did not have the money to maintain the plant at that time. Where I find fault with the IBWC at that time was it wasn't being communicated out to the general public that they were seriously underfunded, and the representatives didn't really have a chance to fully advocate at that time. The $300 million from the USMCA had not been spent or even received by the IBWC, which is separate from the maintenance, but most people who represent you did not know that, and Congress members, that they just really weren't fully aware. And there was a meeting in Imperial Beach, a USMCA EPA meeting, where that was disclosed. And that's when so many people started working hard to get the maintenance budget up, and got it up from a tiny amount to over 154 million. You'll see things in the press now that it's been cut in the current budget, which is somewhat true and somewhat not, because there's a huge amount of money, also the 250 million that was awarded last December in the sort of FEMA emergency bill. Their current budget right now, no one's really talked about, but it has another 50 million in it. My concern is if it keeps going down. But if you look at that 50, the 78, the 154, these 3 years are going to be the 3 largest funded budgets for construction and maintenance. And the IWC has directed so much of that to almost, the large majority of it to this plant and this issue. So I'm optimistic, but that's where your representatives need to ensure that they keep lobbying for that budget, because unfortunately right now it has to be done every single budget. It isn't a pre-approved ongoing amount. Maybe that's something we might be able to change down the road. So the issue with the IBWC as a federal agency, it can do much better than it used to do. And it was being done better, I think, the last couple of years. But the IBWC is, as most federal agencies, are not allowed to lobby. but they can give information, which can then allow other people to lobby. So that information was, I believe, not really disclosed properly previously, and over the last couple of years, it's been disclosed, and Congress has got to work on it and built bipartisan coalitions between some of the most liberal environmentalists with some of the most conservative former Navy SEALs and everybody in between. And that financial funding issue is currently solved, but it doesn't mean it's going to be solved forever if we don't continue to work on it. So I appreciate your comments, and it ties into your comments as well, sir. Yeah, and I think the San Diego ones know, but really the key was going to Washington and getting the non-San Diego representatives on board. But yes, please keep letting the San Diego ones know, because they will change over time, and every time they hear it does make a difference, I believe. Thank you.
Other board members discussion? Yeah.
Thanks for the stretch. Commissioner McIntosh, I wanted to point out some things about what we've talked a little bit about, and what we all as locals see is the river itself. Now, your jurisdiction ends at Dairy Mart Road, and I've had conversations with people at the IBWC, and they quote say, "Yeah, we really wish the river would be restored and be consolidated into a single channel." So right now, what we're having is the water is being spread over the valley, and it's not flowing in the Corps of Engineers channel, which was established decades ago. So instead of the water immediately flowing to the ocean, even though it has pollution, at least we wouldn't have standing ponds of sewage. And the North River is a relatively new phenomenon. The river never used to go by Savin Boulevard. It was about 3/4, half a mile south in the Corps of Engineers channel. And everyone think about this. This river goes back to a 1,750 square mile drainage basin, and it all comes through here. So for about 30 days a year, and this is Mitch, this is your math, 1/4 inch of rain creates 11 billion gallons of water that must travel through this river. With 80 million gallons a day, roughly, of sewage that would, in any rain, would come down here, it is less than 0.013%. It's not even close to a percentage. If we get 1 inch of rain, it goes back down 3 digits. So consolidating the river for those rain events is crucial to the health of the valley, and it scours our river. However, now the engineered channel comes in now. It's not as wide as the apertures of the Dairy Mart Bridge, which is capable for a 100-year flood, is capable of 13 million meters per second. And if you go down to Hollister and you measure that aperture underneath that river, it's the same, because the engineers way back when had the same numbers. And so to restore the river back to its original configuration and design it for flows of 100-year floods would solve a lot of problems immediately, distinctly be gone. We wouldn't be suffering with that. And I think Doug Leiden has made very clear, we cannot process rain events. The volumes are too large, obviously. So the best thing is, on your property, you've done it to Dairy Mart Bridge. It is a confined channel. We need to continue that, and I hope that you will advocate or get the brains at the Corps of Engineers to look at the Corps of Engineers channel and what we need to do to restore the location of the river so it can carry the sand, sediment, and sewage. Though it's unfortunate, but at least it would be gone and not ponding, which we're all suffering from. So thank you very much, by the way.
Okay, board members, ideas for future agenda items, suggestions? Yeah,
I think we should have a historical aerial view maps of the river and of the border situation up on this board so that we can look at the practical reasons. We have photos from the 1950s. We have a photo actually of the river from 1915 that shows a single channel. So to just show that and then show how it has changed in the last 30 years to spreading the water over the valley, I think is very critical because it would, in everyone, a picture says 1,000 words, it would describe the problem we're facing with the river channel.
I would like to suggest a report we're gonna get from Oscar Roma. I hope to have it for tonight, but we wasn't room for it, on the trash rooms. I don't think that's been reported to this board. Any others? All right, well, we finished our agenda and we appreciate your attendance and your interest, and the meeting is adjourned.